Well, President Donald Trump attacks the Obamas with a racist video posted to his X account. An Army vet is facing deportation after living in the U.S. for more than 50 years. And January 6th police officer Harry Dunn is trading suits. He's now running for a seat in the Maryland House. President Donald Trump is being condemned today for reposting a video on his Truth Social page that critics called racist for depicting former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama as monkeys. In the video, it references Trump's repeatedly debunked claims that he won the 2020 election. In response to the post, White House Press Secretary Carolina Leavitt said this when a Deadline.com asked for a comment about it. This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. She said, please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public. This is just one problem. There is no monkeys depicted in The Lion King. The post, which is still up on his page, is facing heat from the left and the right. The NAACP posted this. Trump posting this video, especially during Black History Month, is a stark reminder of how Trump and his followers truly view people, and will remember that in November. South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott said this, praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of the White House. The president should remove it. Prominent conservative radio talk show host Eric Erickson posted a 3-letter response to the Trump post, FFS, that stands for fuck's sake. A 3-time Trump voter called into a C-SPAN show and tore into Trump.
I am a registered Republican. My dad was the president of American Pipeliners Association, so I came by it rather naturally. Voted for the president, supported him, but I really want to apologize. I mean, I'm looking at this awful picture of the Obamas. What an embarrassment to our country. All this man does is tell lies. He is not worthy of the presidency. He takes bribes blatantly, and now he's being a racist blatantly. They were supposed to deport the dangerous criminals. They were not supposed to go after small children, storm schools, bring terror upon, the little kids and the women and children, not just the immigrants in the school. All the children are scared. This is not a decent man. This is not an honest man. He openly takes bribes. He's pathetic as a president, and I just want to apologize to everybody in the country for supporting this rotten man.
John, did you vote for him in all 3 elections?
I did. I was sucked into the stupidity of creating jobs, and there are no more jobs in New Mexico. Things are worse than they were before. You cannot find a primary care physician.
Leavitt will no doubt face questions from the White House press in today's briefing. We'll have full coverage of that tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, beginning at 6:00 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network. Virginia voters will soon get to decide on whether to approve new congressional maps. This morning, Governor Abigail Spanberger signed into law the bill passed by Virginia House and Senate Democrats that would create 10 Democratic and 1 Republican congressional districts, known as the 10-to-1 plan.
Donald Trump knows he's going to lose the midterms. He knows it. That's why he's started this mess in the first place. I try to tell you all that. First, he calls Texas. Give me more seats. Then that's not enough. So he calls North Carolina, Missouri, Ohio. I need more. I need more. Today we are leveling the playing field. These are not ordinary times, and Virginia will not sit on the sidelines while it happens. We made a promise to level the playing field, and today we're keeping our promise. Our maps are ready. Virginia's ready. We said 10-1, and we meant it. And we are proud to deliver a map that stands up for democracy, to stand up for Virginians, to stand up and give us a voice. He started this mess, and Virginia's going to finish it.
Virginia to the rescue. Senator Lucas said it best. We've been working really hard to make sure that we got this delivered. This is about leveling the playing field across the country. Republicans are gerrymandering maps to override the will of the voters. We just saw it in Texas, North Carolina, and Missouri. At Donald Trump's direction, they're manipulating election maps because they know they can't win on their agenda in 2026. So instead of changing their ideas, they're trying to rig the system. A 10-1 map levels the playing field, and we're ready to move forward. Today we're making good on our promise by releasing the maps publicly. We're going to get them released either by the end of the day or early tomorrow. We'll get those maps released. And putting them out in the open and allowing them to be debated the way they should be in a democracy, we're going to leave it up to Virginia voters. The maps are ready. Virginia's ready. And as my senator said many times, 10-1. 10-1.
Well, Spanberger's signing comes one day after the state's top two legislative leaders, House Speaker Don Scott and Senate Speaker Pro Tempore Louise Lucas, announced their agreement on the 10-1 plan.
Our fourth and final one is the redistricting amendment. This is the work of the legislature. It's recognizing that Virginia has the opportunity and the responsibility to be responsive in the face of efforts across the country to change maps, that Virginia is moving forward with this temporary and responsive effort to redistrict. Now I know there's many press in the room, there are multiple steps. This is the one that will enable us to move forward with this referendum. I was going to go in order, but you're right there.
First pen I got in 4 years.
Well, even though Spanberger has signed the law, it's not a certainty that voters will get the chance to weigh in. Republicans filed a suit saying Democrats failed to follow the law in approving the law, and the state judge agreed. Democrats appealed, and the case is now headed to the Virginia State Supreme Court. In Maryland, Senate Democrats are standing in the way of approving a new congressional map that could have 8 Democrats and no Republicans in Congress. The bill, which is backed by Governor Wes Moore, was approved by the Democratic-led Maryland House, but Senate President Bill Ferguson is against it. The lone Maryland state senator publicly pushing for the change is Arthur Ellis. Last night on Roland Martin Unfiltered, he did explain why. Well, the U.S. military conducted a strike against another suspected drug trafficking boat in the eastern Pacific Ocean on Thursday. According to U.S. Southern Command, 2 individuals were killed in that operation. Since the strikes targeting alleged drug boats began in September, at least 119 people have died. This operation is part of a campaign initiated by the Trump administration aimed at combating narcotics trafficking. However, the legality of these strikes has been questioned as the administration has provided little evidence to support claims that those killed in the ongoing operations are affiliated with drug cartels or that the vessels targeted contained illegal substances. Well, the White House has announced that President Donald Trump is open to considering the Democrats' demands for reforms to immigration and customs enforcement. This statement comes as Democrats are firmly asserting that they will not support a full-year spending bill for the Department of Homeland Security unless significant changes are made to ICE. With the agency's funding set to expire next Friday, the party is drawing a clear line. However, House Speaker Mike Johnson has rejected two key Democratic demands, one to ban ICE agents from wearing face masks and another to require judicial search warrants for immigration enforcement operations. A Georgia Army veteran is facing deportation. Godfrey Wade, a resident of Covington, has been in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody for nearly 5 months. Born in Jamaica, Wade entered the U.S. legally in 1975 and has lived here for more than 50 years. He's a father of 6 and now facing imminent deportation. On September 13th, Wade was pulled over in Conyers for failing to use a turn signal. He was arrested for driving without a license. And following his arrest, ICE detained him due to a 2014 removal order related to a bounce check back in 2007 and a simple assault charge in 2006. Wade's attorney is currently appealing the denial of his emergency stay of removal. Members of Congress from both parties have written to the Department of Homeland Security, urging them to reopen Wade's case. If DHS does not intervene, Wade could be deported within just a few days. The Trump administration has officially launched TrumpRx.gov. The website allows Americans to find discounts on brand name medications, but only if they pay out of pocket rather than use their health insurance. The president claims that millions of Americans could save money through this platform. Still, it remains unclear whether all patients, especially those with insurance coverage, will benefit from any savings. The site does not sell medications directly to patients. Rather, it acts as a central hub that directs users to drug manufacturers offering discounts. According to a White House fact sheet, the website lists 43 medications, all supplied by the first 5 companies to reach pricing agreements with the Trump administration: AstraZeneca, Lilly, EMD Serono, Novo Nordisk, and Pfizer. To access these discounts, customers must confirm that they are not enrolled in a government insurance program such as Medicare and that they will not seek reimbursement for their out-of-pocket expenses. Former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn is gearing up for a second attempt at a congressional seat. Dunn rose to national prominence for his testimony at congressional hearings regarding his role in defending the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Dunn will enter a crowded primary race where a dozen Democrats have already filed paperwork with the Maryland State Board of Elections. In his announcement video, Dunn says that he is tired of waiting for Congress to fulfill its responsibilities.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
I will never forget that day. The shouting, the pounding, the sound of glass breaking, the shattering of American democracy. January 6th was violent, lawless. A lie turned into an attack, and Donald Trump lit the fuse, and he never put the match down. I wore the badge with pride. I trained hard to earn it. As a Capitol Police officer, service came before self. And on January 6th, we held the line. Here's the thing, lawlessness isn't always a mob. Now it comes with a title, a budget, a badge, a weapon, and lies from behind the podium. We've all seen it. I see the same aggression in ICE agents that I saw from January 6th insurrectionists. Unchecked force, American citizens murdered, and lies to cover it up. That's not safety. It's power without accountability. I once told Congress, I did my job. Now you do yours. Well, I'm done waiting.
Now, Representative Sarah Elfrethith defeated Dunn in Maryland's 2024 Democratic primary for the 3rd District. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is announcing a $1 million investment in a new initiative aimed at addressing homelessness, opioid addiction, and public safety. This follows an executive order signed last week targeting crime and disorder. The funding is part of what Kennedy is calling the Great American Recovery, with an emphasis on expanding treatment programs that prioritize recovery, accountability, and long-term self-sufficiency. The money will fund the New Streets Initiative, that's short for Safety Through Recovery, Engagement, and Evidence-Based Treatment and Supports. HHS says the program will fund targeted outreach efforts, psychiatric care, medical stabilization, and crisis intervention, while connecting people experiencing homelessness and addiction to stable housing. Kennedy also announced a $10 million assisted outpatient treatment program to support adults with serious mental illness. Onyx Impact, a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating digital disinformation that targets Black communities, has launched a $500,000 campaign called Invest in Black Media. The high-profile arrest of journalists Georgia Ford and Don Lemon partly inspired this year's long initiative. As part of this campaign, Onyx Impact has partnered with the National Association of Black Journalists for a special Black History Month matching effort. They are pledging to match contributions up to $100,000 for the NABJ Jubilee Endowment Campaign. Donors can visit NABJ's main donation page, where every gift will be doubled and directly invested in the future of Black journalism. This initiative builds on the more than $1 million that Onyx Impact has invested in Black media over the last 2 years. Starbucks DEI dismissal lawsuit is topping the news today. A federal judge dismissed a lawsuit filed by the Missouri Attorney General's office, which claimed that Starbucks customers were paying higher prices and waiting longer for services because the company was not hiring the most qualified workers. The lawsuit, originally filed by former Attorney General Andrew Bailey, targeted Starbucks' diversity and hiring policies adopted after the 2020 murder of George Floyd. Bailey accused Starbucks of tying executive pay to racial and gender-based hiring goals and of giving certain groups additional training and advancement opportunities. The lawsuit also claims Starbucks used a quota-style system to ensure its board of directors reflected a mix of racial and ethnic backgrounds. Missouri sought to force Starbucks to end what it called discrimination based on race, gender, and national origin, and to rehire or reverse discipline for workers allegedly impacted. But U.S. District Judge John Ross ruled the state failed to prove Starbucks discriminated against even a single Missouri resident who worked at Starbucks or even applied for a job there. And Pizza Hut is closing about 250 underperforming locations across the United States during the first half of 2026. The closures are part of Yum brand strategy called Hut Forward. It's all aimed to restructure the brand and to improve profitability. The company's value deal, a new $5 pizza offer, appears to be falling flat with customers, while Pizza Hut's domestic same-store sales decline. Yum says its other brands continue to thrive. Taco Bell remains a standout, while KFC also posted solid growth and expansion. Yum brands opened more than 440 new locations globally in the fourth quarter alone, and nearly 1,200 new restaurants in 2025 across 65 countries. It's Super Bowl weekend. Tennessee Democratic State Representative Justin Jones delivered what he described as a public service announcement to the Republicans on the state floor regarding the Super Bowl halftime shows. Jones wanted to remind conservatives concerned about the highly anticipated show that there is a clear distinction between Bad Bunny and Kid Rock, who is headlining the all-American alternative Super Bowl halftime show. And it's not Citizen Chip.
This Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, and so this is a public service announcement for the Republican side of the aisle. There's going to be a halftime show. I know some folks are going to be a little bit triggered by an artist named Bad Bunny. But I want to just make an announcement that before you rage tweet, Bad Bunny's from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is a part of America. They have American citizenship because of colonization. So I want to just give you some information before we see a few racist tweets. Secondly, I know some of you are going to be watching the bootleg Temu version of the halftime show that Turning Point and MAGA's doing with a man named Kid Rock. Kind of weird. He's a grown man named Kid Rock. But he has lyrics about liking underage girls, which is called pedophilia. And I think we should be a little uncomfortable by that. I know that's very common right now in the White House, but I think that we should not support people who have lyrics about liking underage girls. So Kid Rock, shameful. I hope you all tune into Bad Bunny. It's some good music. Get some culture and enjoy. Thank you.
Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate that PSA. I did want to fully admit I didn't realize the Super Bowl was Monday. We've been pretty busy down here, so thanks for letting us know that was happening.
For more news, please go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com. We'll have much more coming up on The Breakdown. Stay with us.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
In our Black and Missing segment, we're taking a look at the case of Alyssa McLemore. She's been missing since 2009. She vanished in Kent, Washington, near 30th Avenue South and Kent Des Moines Road. Witnesses say they saw a green 1990s model pickup truck approach her, and it's unknown what she was last seen wearing, but she often has her hair dyed blonde. The McLemore case remains cold, but her family is still searching for answers. If you know anything about this case, you're asked to call Kent Police Department at 253-856-5800. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered last night, Roland spoke with Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson about the executive order ICE on notice that he signed on Saturday. Johnson shares how it's designed to hold ICE accountable in the city.
Well, Chicago, the first city in America to leverage local authority to pursue legal accountability for misconduct by ICE officers. On Saturday, Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an ICE on notice order. It directs the Chicago Police Department to investigate and document any suspected illegal activity involving federal immigration agents. Mayor Brandon Johnson joins us right now. Mayor, glad to have you on the show. So first and foremost, when federal law enforcement when they came into Chicago, they came into the suburbs. I mean, they were the mistreatment of people. They were mistreating police officers. They were treating the suburban cops like they were nothing. The rappelling down buildings and having people standing outside in the cold at 3 o'clock in the morning in this one building, and nobody who they zip tied were even arrested. That to me showed their lack of disregard for laws. And Donald Trump basically said to them, y'all can do what y'all want, and I got your back, and you will have federal immunity. What you're saying here is, okay, he may give you federal immunity, but you break local and state laws, you have to deal with that.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for always providing the clearing call for justice in our country. Look, you know, the President of the United States of America made it very clear. He has declared war on the city of Chicago and American cities across this country. He said that the city of Chicago is going to find out why we changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. And the case that we are making in Chicago, and the case, quite frankly, that's being made all over the country, is that no one has absolute immunity in this country, regardless. And what we have seen here in Chicago and around the country, but specifically in Chicago, we have seen that Trump's personalized, militarized force, also known as ICE, and essentially the Border Patrol agents as well, is that they have, you know, shot and killed a father just outside of the city of Chicago who was dropping his children off to school, Mr. Gonzalez, Villegas Gonzalez, apologies, and shot a woman on the streets of Chicago 5 times. And we're blessed that she was actually able to survive that. But we also saw federal agents raid a South Side apartment where Black families were yanked out of their homes in the middle of the night, children, many of them without even clothes on. And Black folks were put into one vehicle. Families who were ostensibly undocumented were placed in another vehicle. And we saw a federal agent crash their vehicle into a vehicle of a Black man on the west side of Chicago. And then they put him in an illegal chokehold. And as you know, and as your viewers know, an illegal chokehold by law enforcement, that's a death sentence in America, particularly for a Black man. And so what we have done here in Chicago through this latest executive order, and I've signed a series of them, is that essentially creating a pathway for accountability. Because in a normal situation, Roland, as you would know it, the federal government would hold itself accountable, right? The FBI or other federal agencies would essentially investigate, you know, claims of abuse of power. We don't have that right now. And so if the federal government is not going to hold the Trump administration accountable, then the city of Chicago most certainly will.
That was the case, and we look at what happened in Minneapolis, and they are pursuing that investigation, pursuing local and state charges. And the bottom line is there are laws. Just because you're federal law enforcement don't mean you can do whatever you want. You might be on the federal level, but there are laws in this country that you have to abide by. And the mistreatment of citizens, snatching folks out of cars, people, and then, you're letting them go, dropping them off a mile or 2 miles or further from where they actually got picked up. I mean, just the callous disregard for people.
Yeah, it's quite severe. And it's a threat to, you know, our democracy. And Roland, look, man, we know that our democracy is not perfect. We recognize that. And, you know, as Black folks, we have worked tirelessly to, you know, create justice in this country, and not justice just for our own personal plight, but justice for all. And the behavior that we have seen from these federal agents, where they have indiscriminately released tear gas in communities where children were on their way to school. Dozens of police officers were also impacted by, you know, this reckless behavior. We've seen journalists blasted and shot at with pepper balls, detained, and now, you know, we're seeing, you know, more journalists get attacked, you by this administration. And the part that is quite disturbing is the fact that you have, Republicans in Congress or Republicans around this country that won't speak the truth, right? And so now it places a great deal of responsibility on local government, right? Never in a million years, Roland, did I think that as mayor of the city of Chicago, I would have to work to build, safe, affordable communities along with defending the city against federal attacks. But yet here we are in, whether it's the executive order to create a pathway for prosecution and accountability, or, an executive order to protect our First Amendment rights, an executive order to prevent ICE from setting up its raids in public spaces. The other element of this that I just think that people should get their arms around is that there are only two other forces on the planet that have a larger budget than ICE. That's the United States military and China's military. The militarization of ICE and the militarization of our cities right now is of grave concern. But I'm going to use every single tool that's available to me, whether it's executive orders, whether it's legislation, whether it's litigation, every single tool that is at my disposal, I'm going to use to protect the people of our beloved city.
Question, Thelma, your question for Mayor Johnson.
One thing that, as a former prosecutor, I think a lot of people are trying to understand how a district attorney's office who has the ability to bring charges to these individuals without even having to go through law enforcement. What kind of measures are y'all putting into place in regards to prosecution when we've seen, of course, what's happening in Minnesota, and they are having the inability because they are protecting these individuals?
No, that's a great question. I have, the authority to direct my law enforcement to collect evidence, to preserve it, to ensure that, medical care is available in the event a violent incident takes place on scene. The state's attorney has complete autonomy to accept the evidence and prosecute these cases if there's evidence brought before her office, like any other case. But you're absolutely right. The district attorneys around this country, as well as state's attorneys, depending on how they are classified in their various counties, have the ability to receive evidence and bring forth prosecution. In fact, our state's attorney actually said that if there's evidence brought to her office, that she will prosecute. And so what I've essentially done, because I have the ability and the authority to direct my law enforcement to, again, not just capture evidence, but to preserve it, and then this evidence can be brought before the state's attorney. It's within her right or her authority to pursue these cases like any other case. Now, the one encouraging thing that is taking place right now is that the district attorney in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, is organizing district attorneys around the country to do just that. Mm-hmm. And so what I decided to do was, and I think everybody knows that, precedent is something that law looks to be able to determine what can be done in the future. So we decided to go first in Chicago to begin to provocate the conversation, because if we do not hold these people accountable, these individuals will be able to get away with murder. And that is a threat to our livelihood and to our experiences, especially because we know that the ultimate goal of this president is to prevent elections from happening. And if we don't hold this administration accountable, if we don't provide evidence for prosecution, if we don't move forward with that evidence to prosecute, there's nothing stopping this president from continuing this path of behaving with this ideal of impunity. And that's something that we have to avoid if we're going to protect our democracy, working people, and particularly our folks across this country.
Well, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, Roland Martin will talk to a Philadelphia civil rights activist about the lawsuit to compel the National Park Service to restore a slavery exhibit at the President's house. And coming up next on The Breakdown, we have our For the Culture segment. I spoke with a Midwest man who is aiming to bring the community together through his poetry. It's a conversation that you will not want to miss. Stay with us. You're watching The Breakdown.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Welcome back. For the Culture, I spoke with an Indianapolis man who's aiming to bring the community together, all through his books. Inspired by the poetry collection Lost and Found Poems to Inspire the Fire Within, this conversation explores what it really means to lose your way, rediscover your purpose, and reignite the inner drive that moves you forward. Rather than treating setbacks as the end of the story, the book reframes pain, doubt, and uncertainty as a spark for transformation. It's about confronting fear, reclaiming your voice, and turning your lived experience into strength and direction. This isn't just about finding what was lost. It's about returning more grounded, more intentional, more powerful than ever before. Joining us now is minister, author, actor, and spoken word artist, Lex the Gentleman, whose work blends faith, poetry, and purpose, all to inspire people all across the country. We want to thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown.
Thank you so much for having me, Brittany. Good to be here.
Good. We're happy to have you. Tell us a little bit more about you and how you found your way to writing this book.
So, my name is Lex the Gentleman, and growing up, I always I loved plays, and so very early on, I got involved in a lot of church plays at my local church, and through theater, that's where I really started to express my voice. And I continued to act in church plays, but it wasn't until I got to high school that I delved into the spoken word aspect. I started writing poetry. Actually, I was in a relationship at the time, so I wrote a poem for my ex-girlfriend at the time. It was called "Love from Within," and I really saw the impact that it had on her, how it really moved her, and so I was like, I really can find a voice through spoken word. It gave me a way to really start speaking out, right? Because I was also very shy while growing up. So I ended up moving to New York after I graduated from college. And while going to New York, I started going to these different spoken word venues, and I would see these guys that would get up there and speak their poetry, and they would have so much passion behind their words. And I remember one specific spot I went to where afterwards I prayed and asked the Lord, I was like, what if somebody took that same energy, that same passion, and talked about you? Because I always had a strong faith in God. And the Lord was like, that's what I want you to do. So I went back home, I wrote my first spoken word piece, went back to that same spoken word venue, and everybody was on their feet at the end. So again, I saw the reaction that the words that I could say regularly, but then put them in spoken word format, and it would get a completely different response. So after that point, I just kept writing and moved back to Indianapolis, my hometown, and the rest is history. But that's how it really started for me.
So your book talks about being both lost and found. Tell us more about what that journey looks like.
So I reached a point right after the pandemic, or actually it's actually at the start of the pandemic, where I was really trying to find my place in the world. I felt lost. And one thing I found, just recently, I misplaced my wallet, right? And it was somewhere in the house, and I needed to get my ID to go to this location. And I was searching everywhere around the house for this wallet, and I ended up finding it at all places in the bathroom. And so when I was in there, I found it, and I thought to myself, it's not that the wallet was lost; it was truly just misplaced. And I just had to remember where I placed it. And so that's really, the book itself came from a place where I felt lost, right? I didn't have a lot of guidance. I didn't know where I was going in life. And I had to remember to place myself in the presence of God, because the last time I actually felt like I had purpose and I had something to work towards, something to go towards in life, was when I was in the presence of God. And so by placing myself back in His presence, I found my voice again. And that's really what the book is all about. It's about no matter where you are, no matter how lost you feel, you can be found. You can be found in the presence of God, and you can find that voice again. And it talks about love, hope, faith, all those things that contribute and help us along the way to continue to speak our voice.
Go into that a little bit more, if you don't mind. I know you have this minister background. How can someone recognize that spark if they felt numb or stuck for a long time?
Yeah, it's about really remembering who you are. It's about remembering who you are and whose you are. I found it starts from a place of really digging inside yourself and realizing that we didn't create ourselves. We were created by loving God. So the more that I get to know Him, the more that I get to know myself, like who I truly am. And so really when we talk about being lost and found, that's what it's about. You know, when you it's not about religion, you know, it's about relationship. And so when you focus on that relationship with the Lord, with Christ, he begins to show you who you are, and you begin to find that voice. And what happens is, what I found is, the book wouldn't have came about if I didn't really get to that point and realize that, look, I can't do this on my own. I can't go through life on my own. I will continue to feel lost until I continue to put myself in your presence. And it's not a one-stop shop type thing either. You know, it's a continuing daily. You know, I still have those moments, you know, where I feel lost. But it's continuing to put myself in his presence intentionally and finding myself when I do it. So, and many people through the book that have read the book, that's what they felt. They felt that feeling of hope. They felt like they, found their calling again, or maybe they found it again, or they didn't know their calling, and now they understand their calling and where they're going in life. So that's what I found.
You know, I empathize with people. You know, some of us feel lost and may even feel like a failure. How do you reframe that as part of the path to purpose?
So one thing I've always said is, failure is just success turned inside out, right? So everything that we've gone through, everything that we've experienced is an opportunity for us to learn from it, right? And then allow it to make us better, you know, because trials are going to happen. But when those trials happen, only two things are going to happen from those trials. It's either going to make us bitter or it's going to make us better, right? And we have that choice. We have that choice to react to that in either one of those ways, right? So I know it's something we have to remind ourselves of. And one thing I found is, as we do continue to put ourselves in the presence of God, he will remind us of these things, right? So he'll remind us that, like, okay, remember, it's all happened for a reason. You know, I'm your friend that knows the end. I got you. You know, I'm right here with you. And so that's what I always try to speak from my pieces. Every piece that I write, it starts from a place of desperation. I'm in this place. I'm in this, place. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it always ends with a bright note. Always ends with, okay, I got it. I got to figure it out. Thank you, Lord. I'm coming out stronger, better, wiser, and I'm going forward. So every piece that I write, you'll find a theme, and that is the theme.
Amen. Tell us where we can find your work, how we can connect with you.
So first of all, you can visit my website, lexthegentleman.com. And on the website, you'll find different things, interviews, videos, me doing spoken word, the links to purchase my book. You can also get a signed copy on my website, and all my social media information is on there. You can follow me at Lex the Gentleman 7 on IG, and all my other information is on my website. And the book is available, Lost and Found Poems to Inspire the Fire Within. It's available actually right now on Amazon. If you did want a signed copy, you just go on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, just type in Lex the Gentleman, and it'll come up, and I can purchase the book there. So that's how you can get in touch with me and get the book.
All right. Well, we have a copy here in our studio as well, Lost and Found by Lex the Gentleman. We want to thank you for joining us today on The Breakdown and sharing a wealth of information. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany.
welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America.
MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Well, we want to thank you for watching the breakdown on the Black Star Network. And we want to let you know that your support is absolutely critical to what we do here. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code. We're going to put that in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. There it is. You can also help with credit cards. Use the same thing. PayPal's are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle at RolandSMartin.com. Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And if you're old school, please send us a check or money order. It's all payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196 in Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and we truly appreciate your support. Also, if you want to represent the Black Star Network, you can do so beyond the screen by going to our website, shopblackstarnetwork.com. There you can find so many products, and you can, support us with your Black Star swag. Again, we thank you for watching the breakdown today, and we hope you'll join us again on Monday. Also, Roland Martin Unfiltered begins at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on the Black Star Network. Have a good day.